Hello, welcome to Pursuit of Perfect System. My name is Terryellis. I'm an audio reviewer and a professional Dirac Live Calibrator, and thank you for joining me for the review conclusion of the Leema Acoustics PULSE IV, which I'd like to say is an integrated amplifier because it is, but it's also a phonostage, a DAC and a headphone amplifier. Now, Leema Acoustics are a Welsh-based hi-fi manufacturer that was founded by two ex-BBC engineers. They have an interesting product range with three main lines. The PULSE IV is from the middle tier line, the Stellar line. The back end of last year, I reviewed what I affectionately nicknamed Mighty Mouse. Now that was the Leema Acoustics Elements integrated amplifier, essentially their entry-level product line, and I really liked it, and I was hugely impressed by just how punchy that amplifier sounded from a very small and compact half-width chassis. Moving up to Leema Acoustics Stellar range, I can see what they have tried to do and achieve here with the PULSE IV. I want to start this review with a thought that I want you to hold until the end of the review. At this price point and below, there is a huge amount of competition for products like the PULSE IV. Not only is there a huge amount of competition for products, there is a huge amount of competition for what these products can offer and what they can do. There is clearly a demand for these one-box type of hi-fi solutions, and I think certain models will definitely appeal to certain audiophiles for certain reasons or certain features. So what does the Leema PULSE IV offer that stand out? Well, for starters, lots and lots of connectivity options. There's multiple SPDIF and multiple optical inputs, 5 different analog inputs, and a USB input connections. So you're unlikely to own more digital or analog kit than you can connect to the PULSE IV. It has aptX Bluetooth connectivity, covering you for that music source convenience. It has an internal DSD capable DAC section, which is based on an ESS Sabre chipset. A feature that I think is the standout feature for the Leema Acoustics PULSE IV at the end of 2019 going into 2020 is the Phono stage, which has been borrowed or taken from Leema Acoustics Essential Phono stage, which as a standalone phono stage is a £600 unit that's been very well reviewed and received since its inception, I think back in 2010. And if it is the same phono stage as was released back in 2010, that cost just under £1,400. So it's a hell of a phono stage within the PULSE IV. Sadly, that is the only feature of the PULSE IV that I've been unable to test, so I cannot give you any indication of what it sounds like as a phono stage, which is a shame because I think that is probably one of the big features of its design. And I'm very mindful of how it sounds as an amplifier and as a digital product, which makes me think it would be really well suited to vinyl playback. The amplifier is an 80 watt per channel at 8 ohms, I think class D design, and the reason I say I think it is purely because of the amount of heat that the PULSE IV just doesn't generate. But even if it is a class D design, there's still a toroidal transformer based power supply for the PULSE IV. Looking closer at the PULSE IV, it's a slimline design and I really like the look of it. It's neat and understated. The front face plate is very thick and the amplifier is heavy at 11 kilograms. It feels sturdy and feels well built. One minor criticism is that the top plate could be a little bit thicker. I think it would just help pull the whole design together, make it feel even more sturdy and well built, and it would reduce that tiny little bit of ting that you can get when you tap the top of it. The front controls are nice and smooth in operation. There is a very fine and small adjustment to them rather than a big and clunky one. One thing to point out is that the volume and the input selectors are what I think the wrong way round. Well, they certainly seem the wrong way round to me, with the volume control on the left and the input selector on the right. Now that definitely caught me out quite a few times and it still does up until this day. I'm just about getting used to it. Accessing the PULSE IV menu system is done by holding in the volume selector, and we have the options for choosing between using the phonostage as a moving magnet or as a moving coil. There is also screen off timer options. There is a selection to choose which analog input we want to use for our home theatre bypass, and then we can rename all our inputs to better suit what we're using them for. This next one is an interesting one. We can change how the amplifier displays and adjusts its volume. dB or decibels is a pretty obvious one, and there is a scale of between 0 and plus 25. However, with the DEC mode selected, we have a huge level of volume adjustment from 0 right up to 242, each to their own on the choice of that one. One of the Leema Pulse's party tricks is its volume memory per input. Change the input away, and then when you return back to that input, it will automatically set the volume back to the last volume you used it at. Now this can be very useful for inputs like home theatre bypass or home cinema bypass. The included remote is quite a small and simple remote, but it's okay. It works good and it's very responsive, but it is simple. It's nothing flash or really exciting to report about here. So let's move on to sound quality, and there were some things here that I expected from a Leema Acoustics amplifier, and there were some things here that I didn't expect. Using the Pulse 4 purely as an integrated amplifier, the sound is clean and controlled with very good detail retrieval. I found the sound to be slightly forward in the mids and in the treble, and then a bit recessed in the bass. This did lead to a slightly lean sound in my review system, slightly too lean for my own personal taste. However, some changes to the Chord Electronics DAC filter options balance that sound out quite nicely. Interestingly, moving over to using the internal DAC within the Pulse 4 showed me really why the amplifier is tuned or sounds that way. Using the internal DAC, the sound overall is nicely balanced, and I would assume using the internal phonostage that the amplifier would be balanced with that as well. Even with the nice balance of using the internal DAC, there is still a slightly recessed bass to the overall sonic presentation. Certainly a little bit too recessed for the KEF reference free speakers in my review room, and I did find myself wanting just a bit more oomph to the sound from the Pulse 4, especially when listening at louder volumes. But then again, the KEF reference free speakers are quite difficult speakers to drive. For my final thoughts, I just want to bring you back to that comment that I made right at the start of this review about how much competition there is between products around this price point and below, and how I feel about them. I'm conscious that manufacturers have to make a pretty big decision when it comes to dividing the manufacturing budget between all the different features they want their product to offer. And they have to offer these features because the amplifier or the product next to them either side in the showroom is already offering them. And there's naturally a finite amount of manufacturing budget for a product like this, and the manufacturer has to choose, do they spend 80% of that budget on the amplifier and 20% on everything else, or do they spend that budget on 30%, 30, 30 and 10? And I think what that can create is certain products that stand out for certain reasons, and there'll definitely be certain products that just stand out for key features for certain types of audiophiles. And I think what Leema Acoustics have done with the Pulse 4 is share that budget pretty evenly across all the different features that it offers, because it is a good amplifier, it is a good DAC, it is a good headphone amplifier, and I'm sure it is a good phonostage. And I think if you partner the Leema Pulse 4 with the right speakers or headphones, you can get a better than good result. And as a result, the Leema Pulse 4 just wasn't quite the right amplifier for me as an audiophile, or for my KEF reference free speakers. I think the product up in the Stellar range, the Quasar with its 200 watt per channel amplifier, would have given me that extra oomph that I was wanting from the sound from the Pulse 4, but that's just me with my speakers in my listening room. And because I like to listen to music really loud, and not everyone wants that. But I can still appreciate what Leema Acoustics have done here in the creation of the Pulse range. It's obviously in its 4th iteration, and it could well be the perfect all-in-one integrated amplifier for you, especially if you're into vinyl and into vinyl playback. I hope you've enjoyed this review series for the Leema Acoustics Pulse 4. Don't forget, this is the third video in the series. There's already 2 videos live in the channel. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you show us by hitting that thumbs up button. That support's really appreciated. Make sure you go and visit our website for more hi-fi news, reviews and more. And obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to see lots more videos like this. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you all soon. Take care.